I would like you to have your question paper. I would like you to have your textbook, and I would like you to have your learner guide. We'll start off from the question papers. When we look at the question paper, we'll first look at an overview of the module, the Supply Chain 101. It is comprised of 10 study units. The first study unit talks about the introduction to supply chain management and supply chain planning, what supply chain is, what logistics is, and how this is organized to bring optimum benefits to whoever is part of it. Study Unit 2 talks about purchasing management, which is procurement. What is it that we look at when we are purchasing? How do we do it? It's a management, like supply chain management, meaning that it has to have all the principles of management. Then Study Unit 3 talks about the supplier management, the people that we purchase from, the people that supply raw materials and components to us as a focal organization. Then Study Unit 4 is transportation. We all have come across transportation in different subjects. We are going to look at the 5 modes of transportation, and we are going to look at inbound transport. What we mean by inbound transport, we mean the transport that is bringing raw materials or components to the focal organization. Start Unit 5 talks about inventory management. Inventory management, which is sometimes referred to as stock management. We know we have inventory, which comprises raw materials, work in progress or work in process, which is partly finished goods, and finished goods. So Start Unit 5, deals with how much inventory we need to keep, how we should keep it. That's where we come across a lot of philosophies such as JIT that have nothing but looking at the objective of minimizing costs as far as inventory management is concerned, and ensuring that there's a good flow of goods and there's no disruptions in our production. Start Unit 6 is warehouse management. That is to do with storage, which is part of logistics. Transport, inventory management, warehouse management is part of logistics. Logistics, which is a subset of supply chain. That is Study Unit 6. Study Unit 7 talks about operations management. How are you managing your operations within your organization and within the plant itself, where the raw materials are changed into finished goods, And then distribution management. That's where we look at distribution management. We are now looking at the participants that are there in distributing, the finished products. Then outbound. After the outbound transport for Start Unit 9, after the products after the raw materials have been converged into finished goods, they now become finished goods, and they have to go to the market through outbound transportation. That is now going to the distributors, going through to the channel of distributors, right up to the end user. We say it's going downstream. When it's coming from the suppliers to the focal organization, we say that's coming from upstream. Then Start Unit 10 talks about customer service and performance management. We all are aware that customer service is key in any organization. Our aim in supply chain is to try and satisfy our customers. That's our main objective. So we need to up our customer service and performance management. That's the study unit 10. I have gone through the overview of this. Now coming to your questions in the assignment. The assignment is derived from the first 3 unit standards. These are what we are going to zero on. Start unit 1 is about the introduction to supply chain management and planning. This study will introduce the basic concepts of supply chain management and help you to have an understanding of the working of supply chain at a basic level. And secondly, it is going to introduce the concept of supply chain planning. Supply chain planning is a key integration process in the supply chain and is dealt with as such in this unit. The different levels of planning, and the key concepts related to supply chain planning are also dealt with. That's what we are going to look at in study unit 1. Study unit 2 is about purchasing management. We are saying it is to do with the sourcing or purchasing. Sourcing or purchasing is often the starting point of any supply chain. Before you satisfy your customers, when you have received an order, before you manufacture that order, you need to purchase. So this is the starting point of any supply chain. And this unit will therefore focus on sourcing and supply management. How do you manage this? How do you plan? How do you organize? How do you coordinate? And how do you control? Then the third one is supplier management, because you have a lot of suppliers that you have decided to have working with you as partners. How do you manage them? These suppliers form a key part of the supply chain. And in this unit focuses on the key principles of selecting suppliers and managing suppliers as a key element in the supply chain. Then, in our question 1, I want to believe you all have that diagram. It is for you to understand what tires are. It reads, select a South African organization that is a dairy product manufacturer, e.g. Clover. Clover is a dairy product manufacturer. We might have cheese. We can have yogurt. It's a dairy product manufacturer. How many more can you type? Those that you know, dairy product manufacturers. Anyone who can think of any of it, please type that for me. No one knows any dairy product manufacturer. Sepo, Shilein, Mohammed. Anyone? Okay, I gave you yogurt, I gave you cheese. There are many more. Lizanne and Mohammed are typing. Yes, I already said yogurt. I thought you were going to come up with something else. Cream, yeah? Yes. Okay, let's continue. So you note that there is a focal organization. That is the organization that you know. 1.1 says, provide a brief background description. That is name, history, geographical product, logistics about the organization you have chosen. Choose one organization and give a background description. Remember, here you need to research and acknowledge your sources. So once you have done that, they say from Horn et al. 2014, write definitions of supply chain management and logistics management. Remember, on 1.1, you are going to talk about the brief history. Name, brief history, geographic. What is their geographic foothold? Where is their headquarters? What product are they in? And logistics. You will know what logistics is after we have defined it about the organization you have chosen. Then 1.2, write definitions, 1 of supply chain management and 2 of logistics management. This you can get from your book, you can get from other supply chain books, and it is so clear, but try and show that you understand. And please don't forget to reference at the back to show where you got this information. 1.3, compile a supply chain for your chosen organization using the figure below. Indicate 1, 2 examples of suppliers from any tire. Okay, for instance, you have your focal organization, which is making yogurt. Who supplies you with what? And who supplies, that is tire 1. The people that supply you directly are tire 1. And then tire 2 is the people that supply your suppliers. And then tire 3 are the people that supply your suppliers' suppliers. We have looked at upstream, where the product is coming from, upstream, coming down. Then tire 1, who are your customers? Who are you going to sell to? Is it the wholesalers? From wholesalers, is it going to go to tire 2 retailers? Then is it from retailers going to spaza shops? Where is it going? You should be clear, but this requires that you read a lot. Much as you are restricted to 3 unit standards, they are just for guide. Please go out of your way and research. You are university students. Go out, research, and get the information. Then you will understand this. We have looked at 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Question 2. I had said question 1 from Start Unit 1. You'll get that from Start Unit 1. Students should define the concept supply chain and logistics management. Students have to understand what supply chain management is and how the supply chain partners relate with one another. They need to clearly understand what a tire is. I've explained what a tire is. And relate it to the dairy product manufacturer they have chosen. That is your assignment approach, question 1. Question 2. The first one was from Start Unit 1. Question 2. This is also derived from Start Unit 1 in Chapter 1 of the textbook. This is on supply chain drivers. There are 6 of them, and you have to know them. As I will go through the start units, I have slides that I've prepared for the 3 start units. Hopefully, this is going to give you a guide. Question 2 first reads, answer the following questions on the supply chain drivers. Why is it important to combine the 6 supply chain drivers? Meaning that these 6 supply chain drivers have to work together. They have to be in tandem. 2.2, identify and explain the 6 supply chain performance drivers. 2.3, provide an example of a strategic decision related to each driver And for each driver, show possible example decision for your chosen dairy product. You again apply. Question 3 from Unit 2 and Chapter 2 of the book. This is purchasing. They say discuss the important role of purchasing. 3.2 identify and describe the 9 steps in the purchasing cycle. That was our question 3. Question 4, which is the last question, is also from Study Unit 2. It reads, question 4.1, with regard to sustainable purchasing, discuss 6 ways in which purchasing can contribute to society. How does purchasing contribute to society? Then 4.2, show how you would use the list on 4.1 to help your chosen dairy organization to contribute to society by making suggestions with respect to 3 of these ways. Then the last one, identify 8 supplier selection evaluation criteria and explain why, when you are selecting your suppliers, how do you evaluate, and explain why each would be important for a dairy manufacturer that was selecting a milk bottle supply. Remember, you have your suppliers, bottles, dairy bottles will also be the milk bottles. Okay? Then, that is the end. Then the presentation. Be careful of your grammar. Please, citation, go through that. Please be careful. You really get penalized if you don't follow the advice given on how the marks are presented, structure and grammar, citation, referencing. Remember, IMM Graduate School uses the Harvard Referencing System Guide. Markers will indicate the presentation mark allocated to a student on the cover sheet of the assignment. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've gone through an overview. Now let's go to our first slide. Chapter 1 is Introduction to the Concepts, Supply Chain Management and Logistics. The learning outcomes. If you note, we have several learning outcomes, but you note that your question, some of your questions, like your first question, has to do with defining the concepts, supply chain management and logistics. Your learning outcome, the first one, is define and explain the concepts, supply chain management and logistics. So note that even when you read for your exams, you should make sure that you can answer everything that is on the learning outcomes. I put that in red because it's related to your paper. Then explain interrelationship between the 2 concepts. How is supply chain management related to logistics? Then the third one, differentiate between different supply chain concepts. Outline different components, stages, or entities of a supply chain. Explain the general steps in a logistics process. And then explain the different performance, supply chain performance drivers. That's another one. And it's there in your question, in your assignment. Then discuss the concept network design as applicable to supply chain. Introduction now. Let's look. The concept supply chain management, abbreviated SCM, and logistics are part of our daily lives. Examples, we want to get from our homes to the university, to IMM, Atlas campus, or local supermarket as quickly and cheaply as possible. We want cold drinks to be available at vending machines, fuel to be available at filling stations, and products at shops. Logistics then is the physical movement. If it's wine coming to Joburg from Cape Town, its physical movement to this place is part of logistics. So logistics is the physical movements of products and services in the shortest time period and at the lowest possible cost from the point of origin, which is abbreviated POO, to the point of consumption, which is POC. So it is from point of origin to point of consumption. It requires a team of supply chain partners. Obviously, whoever is manufacturing the wine in Cape Town will have to be a team with the people that supply him with the grapes, and he also has to be in partnership with the people that are going to distribute the wine for him, like the wholesalers, retailers, the agents going downstream from upstream. So these people will have to work as a team, working together as an integrated and coordinated unit, not as individuals, because we are all about cutting costs throughout. Transporters are part of it. Then, profit and competitive advantage. What do we mean by profit? Profit is what you get, revenue less the cost. Then you get what is called a profit. So the main reason why entrepreneurs establish, operate, and manage business organizations is to earn and maximize profit. People are into business to maximize profit. Profit is calculated as the difference between revenue generated, sales, and the operating cost. How much did it cost you to have those products or expenditure that has been incurred to generate the revenue? So we have had a formula here, which is price times quantity sold minus cost. Then this gives us a profit. Competitive advantage. What is meant by competitive advantage? Is a product or service that is preferred to others. You have your competitors. What is it that will make people come to you instead of the same people that are providing the same product like you? So that's a competitive advantage. What makes consumers come to you instead of your competitors? Then we talk about the product and service differentiation. Providing customers with better service and better value for money. You want to make sure that your product, when your consumers buy the product, they feel that what they paid for is worth it. If not, they must feel that they are really delighted. You have given them more than what they paid for. The result of the product and service differentiation is why it is the result why consumers prefer one product or service to the other. Why do you go for this instead of that? It's because of something. It's a differentiated product or service. We have explained this. We've calculated that. Profit and competitive. Let's talk about logistics service provider. What do we mean by logistics service provider? A business specializing in logistics services, like the logistics services that we have are warehousing, where we store goods, storage facilities, packaging, transportation, and information technology. So if they are logistics service providers, they are people that offer these services for a fee. They are referred to as logistics service providers. Then present competitive in global market. Customer service and value are key differentiators. Why would people think you are better than others? Why would consumers prefer you? Because of your customer service and value. You know, they feel they've gained something. Customers demand new and improved quality products with the latest technologies at a shorter time intervals. They want to place an order and receive whatever they've placed an order for at the quickest possible time. Respective and interrelated roles played by logistics and supply chain will enable businesses to secure and maintain. We are looking at the roles of logistics and supply chain. If these are interrelated and are executed well, they will ensure that the business has a competitive advantage, a differentiated product and or service, maximum revenue, lower operating costs, and higher profits are obtained because customers are happy. Mohammed, I see a no there. What was that? Mohammed, can you hear me? And can you see me, please, people? I know there's Mohammed. He had said no. I hadn't seen that. Also, I can continue, coach. So, once customers are happy, they will prefer your product. And if they prefer your product, they will buy more from you. And as a result, this maximizes your revenue. The costs, because of the coordination and these people working together and planning, the costs will be reduced. And if costs are reduced and revenues are high, then the profits become higher. Let's look at profit and competitive advantage. Logistics and supply chain are vehicles to attain two twin goals. One is efficiency, the other is effectiveness. Efficiency has to do with, cost reduction. Supply chain and logistics aim at reducing costs. So we are saying organizations succeeding in supplying materials and products to its customers at the lowest possible cost and price. Those lead to efficiency. Effectiveness is more about satisfying customers. Customers being satisfied with the goods and services they receive is to do with effectiveness. So there are two vehicles to profit and competitive advantage in logistics. It's efficiency and effectiveness, lowering costs and satisfying customers. Now, the concepts of logistics and supply chain defined. Here, when we are looking at supply chain, we are looking at all the organizations. Included in these organizations are logistics organizations, like transporters, warehousing, and inventory management, which is warehousing. So these people should work together, like in sport. In sport, when it's Bafana playing, and one person, Tsepo Modisa, scores, that doesn't mean that it's Tsepo who has won. It is the whole team. So there is emphasis in team working together. Success of a team depends to a great extent to the manner in which the players combine and coordinate as a team. So these organizations in a supply chain have to work together. Every pass of the ball between players needs to be executed optimally for the team to succeed. So in the business environment, like in manufacturer, together with different suppliers providing inputs such as parts and materials used in the production, act as a team. That is, they become what is called supply chain partners. There is the concept. I took this from your book. Concept of logistics and supply chain management defined. We are looking at a supply chain in which bread is supplied to the supermarket. You start off with wheat, then there is a carrier which takes it to the silos, then it goes to carrier that takes it to the bakery, and then there is a carrier who is the transporter, takes the bread. After the bakery, takes the bread to the shops. Then let's look at, suppliers for a product, that supply chain partners who have to work together in a correlated way. Let's take, for instance, the manufacturer in a tire manufacturer. The tire manufacturer will receive wire from a wire supplier, rubber from a rubber supplier. And then the tire manufacturer manufactures the tires, and the transporter comes, carrier doing the transport and transports it to the motor vehicle manufacturer. So that's how these people work. And now the concepts of logistics supply, there are 5 rights of logistics. The 5 rights of logistics are delivering products in the right quantity and quality and at the right time and price, at the right place and price, to allow timeous production at the lowest possible cost. We are trying by all means throughout the supply chain to lower the costs. All 5 of these need to occur simultaneously to ensure successful supply chain. Quantity should be right. If the quantity is not the right quantity, you risk having disruptions, and disruptions will mean delaying to satisfy your customers, and they might even switch if you are taking too long with the product, or they might go there and find that the product is not there and they switch to other competitors. Right quality is poor quality, you're shooting yourself on the leg. At the right time, place and price. Now we look at inbound and outbound processes via distribution channels. When we talk about distribution channels, we are talking about all those organizations that are there between the manufacturer and the consumer. Here we have inbound. Inbound is what is coming into the factory. That is the purchase inputs or suppliers that come from the customer order. Then manufacturing takes place in the focal business. Then there is selling and distribution. It can be via a distribution center or a warehouse, or it can be direct to a customer. If the manufacturer is selling direct to a customer, we say that's a direct channel. But if it's going through the wholesaler, the retailer, the distribution center, then we say that is an indirect channel. Inbound flows, I've already explained them. I said this is the physical movement and management of materials received and to be used in production. These are like raw materials that are coming to the factory. Outbound, I already explained it. I said this is distribution and management of final products to whoever demands these products. A customer order initiates the entire supply process and ends it off when the customer receives the order. Downstream, I again talked about downstream. That is nearer the consumer, is downstream. Refers to the movement of supplies from one manufacturer or supplier to the next in the direction towards the eventual or final customer. Then upstream. Upstream is the movement of products backwards in the supply chain towards the original source. Original source is upstream. Consumer is downstream. Then we are looking at some of the steps in the logistics flow process. Supplier A goes to A, They will have their own transport. Supplier P, carrier, they have theirs. Then focal business, manufacturer, distribution center or warehouse, and customer. Supplier C can use a third-party logistics who is going to be paid. It can be a transporter, a private transporter that you are, who will be paid a fee for transporting products. A typical supply chain involves a number of components, stages, or entities, which include customers. After doing market research about products, you do market research to find out what the customers need and who your customers are. Who are you going to target? How are you going to get these products to them? Then you look at raw material suppliers. Who is going to supply you with raw materials? Then manufacturers, wholesalers and distributors, retailers, then customers, that is receipt of, or who is going to receive ordered goods and services. So there are different distribution channels. One can be direct manufacturer to a consumer. The other one can be manufacturer, mail order, consumer, manufacturer, on store, which is manufacturers, like I want to believe Woolworths and Edgar's have their own manufacturer, which is on Edcon, and Edgar's have their own, stores, and then the consumer. Can be manufacturer to retailer to consumer, can be manufacturer, wholesaler, retailer, consumer, manufacturer, sales agent or broker, wholesaler, retailer, consumer, manufacturer, manufacturer's branch, wholesaler, retailer, consumer. So we have different distribution channels. What is a channel of distribution? It is a route taken by supplies of raw materials, components, parts, and finished goods or services from point of origin, which I said was POO, to point of consumption, which is POC. Direct channel, I've explained it. Indirect channel, I explained it. Warehouse, what is a warehouse? It's building in which finished goods or merchandise are stored until required by customers or outlets. Manufacturers need to decide whether it is more cost effective, that is efficient, to have their own private warehouse or to rent. Sometimes you might find that it's easier to rent a distribution center. Like I want to believe some of these big retailers, I'm not sure Pick and Pay, like ShopRite and like might have their own distribution centers. It's a facility used for the receipt of and temporary storage and distribution of goods according to received customer orders. The longer the channel and the more the number of intermediaries who used to be referred to as middlemen who operate in the channel, the more expensive the items become because of more transactions being concluded and salaries paid. Remember, everybody at each stage will be requiring to add value, get something out of it. Now, transport from supplier to manufacturer to customers can be private transport operators. These are organization owned. You might be owning your own organization or vehicles. Manufacturer makes use of his own leased or hired vehicles to provide a secondary, which is an auxiliary transport function of delivering his completed products to customers. Then third-party logistics provider. These are outside professional carrier transport supplies that can be outsourced. DHL, whoever is into logistics, who is into transportation, you might decide to outsource them. Now, they wanted you to define what supply chain management is. We have done so a bit with logistics. Supply chain, therefore, encompasses the planning and management of all activities involved in the sourcing and procurement, conversion. When we talk about conversion, is changing the raw materials into finished goods and all logistics management activities. This is a definition by the Council of Supply Chain Management Professionals. Supply chain management includes coordination and collaboration with channel partners, which can be suppliers, intermediaries, third-party service providers, and customers. Then, coming again to logistics, you have this question there, 1.2. This one, I said before, is seen as a subset, meaning it's a part of supply chain. So supply chain has included in it logistics. It is that part of supply chain management that plans, implements, and controls the efficient, we talked about efficiency, effective physical forward and reverse flow and storage of raw materials, work in process, inventory, finished goods, services, and related information between the point of origin and the point of consumption in order to meet customer requirements. Reverse logistics. Reverse logistics, that is the route now from downstream to upstream, maybe because the goods are not the right goods. Or maybe you need to recycle. Or you need to recondition, like computer cartridges. You are sending them back for, reconditioning. Or the goods were not the right goods, you are now taking them back. So that is reverse logistics. I thought I should mention what that is now. And this is because of a lot of environmental consciousness. People want to dispose of their products in a responsible way. Then supply chain management practices have become increasingly service-based and applied in both the private sector and the public sector. Supply chain partners make mistakes which negatively affect the supply chains and their partners. If one of them makes a mistake, this has a ripple effect right across, and it leads to unhappy customers. The primary purpose of the supply chain is to satisfy customer needs. In the process, will generate and maximize profit and overall value. In this process, we are trying by all means to say, let's maximize profit and overall value. Supply chain success should be measured in terms of supply chain profitability, not in terms of profits of individuals. We are saying all the members, all the supply chain partners should at least benefit. All of them should profit, not only some. They are all a team. It's a win-win for everybody who is a partner. So supply chains are in competition with one another. There are so many supply chains. All the suppliers involved in manufacturing the motor vehicle of company A form a separate supply chain. One supplier may be part of a number of supply chains. A tire manufacturer, for example, may supply tires to different motor vehicle assemblers that are part of different and competing supply chains. Supply chain drivers. What are supply chain drivers? It is important to ensure that you have a question on this, to ensure that the business strategy is the long term. You have looked at what the vision, the mission is, what are you about, where do you intend to be end of the year, where do you intend to be in a few years to come. So it is important to ensure that the business strategy of organization is aligned with the overall business strategy of specific supply chains. When as a supply chain, you are bringing in a business strategy, ensure that, you are bringing in a supply chain strategy, ensure that it talks to the overall business. What is your business about? It should not be contrary to what your business strategy is. This is achieved through the proper deployment of supply chain drivers. So which are these supply chain drivers? There are 6 supply chain drivers with the aim of giving efficiency and effectiveness. We talked about efficiency and effectiveness. The first 3 are referred to as logistical drivers, and the other 3 are referred to as cross-functional drivers. Structuring these 6 drivers in the correct combination leads to optimum responsiveness and efficiency. They lead to effectiveness and efficiency, that is, lowering the costs and satisfying the customer. These are on 1.5 on page 15. You get some. The first 3 is facilities, inventory, transportation. These are logistical drivers. The cross-functional are information, sourcing, and pricing. Facilities. This has to do with the actual physical location or sites in the supply chain network where products are manufactured, processed, assembled, or stored. You have to plan about these facilities. Are the facilities going to be closer to the raw materials, or are they going to be closer to the customers? Inventory. When we talk inventory, we're talking raw materials, work in process, which is unfinished goods, and finished goods within the supply chain. Transportation. This is a value-creating activity in the supply chain, which entails moving inventory of products from one location, that is point A, to another point. Then information consists of data and analysis about product availability. That is information now flowing up and down. Suppliers, facilities, costs, prices, and availability of transportation throughout the supply chain. Sourcing now, where are we going to buy our raw materials? The strategic decisions here are on which functions will be performed by the organization itself. That is, what is going to be done by the organization in-house and which will be outsourced. When we talk about outsourcing, they are saying there are certain functions that we can't do. Like maybe we feel, no, having our own private transporters is going to tax us so much. Why don't we look for experts and we pay them? They do the transportation for us. That is now outsourcing. Then pricing, determined by the economic forces of demand and supply. There is a lot that you look at when you are pricing. This is going to be discussed further in our supply chain, but you have to talk about the pricing. Obviously, you have to consider what costs have gone there and then the pricing. The 3 last with the cross-functional. Then supply chain strategic decisions on facilities. You had this as well. Strategic decisions to have both production and storage facility closer to the market or only one of the 2. What are you saying? 2, to expand an existing, we are talking about the strategic decisions, to expand an existing production facility, to increase capacity and serve distant markets through storage facilities, or to relocate to a new production facility at the distant market. Another strategic decision is to maintain the current number of sites and facilities, or to add more, or to increase the capacity of some of the existing facilities. The next, to stop production at current facility because it has become less profitable, and to use the facility for producing a different item in its product range, or to sell or lease the facility. Then we talk about supply chain network design. How is it designed? Supply chain network design is almost like arteries, veins, consisting of the channels of distribution through which inbound material supplies and outbound completed products flow upwards and downwards in the supply chain. It needs to be optimally designed to ensure the optimum balance between efficiency and customer response. Relates to decisions regarding infrastructure, overall capacity, the main network activities of movement, storage and transformation, as well as the selection of the members in the supply chain. Who do we want to work with? Who is going to be our member in the supply chain? So the strategic decisions will be based on the core products, because you have to look at the type of product, kind of service, and what is the business strategy. Remember, in doing everything in our supply chain, we have to make sure that we are in line with the business strategy. Which is your target market? What are your sources of supply? What is the role of your facility? Where is the facility going to be located? What is the capacity allocation and market and supply allocation? Now, we look at the steps in the logistics process. The steps in the logistic process, we start off with a customer initiating an order. Step 2, then, from when you have received your order, you say, okay, we've received so much. How are we going to produce? We come up with what is called a production schedule against the actual orders received or sales forecast, and checking the in-store availability of materials. Step 3, we now purchase the supplies so that we can start manufacturing as per the orders received, so that we don't have too much inventory with us. Step 4, we now have actual receipt. Step 3, purchasing the supplies not in stock. Step 4, actual receipt, inspection, and internal management of the purchased supplies. You want to make sure that is it the right quality, right color of raw materials that you received. Step 5, you start producing the products or services the customer wants. Step 6, getting the products correctly packaged for the local and global marketplace. Remember, it might be your own place here or you might be exporting. Step 7, you now move the finished goods directly to the customer or a wholesaler, retailer, to a warehouse, either a private warehouse or a public warehouse or a distribution center. Then step 8, you now manage the customer payment. So when we talk about the value added role of logistics, we say the willingness to pay for the product or service is determined by the utility. What is it that it adds as a value that the product or service will have for the demand or customer? Utility refers to the satisfaction derived from the usage or consumption of the product or service. For instance, logisticians, the people in logistics, differentiate between the 4 types of utility. Time utility is having the product at the right time, like it's winter now. Do we have warm jackets and everything, warm, drinks at the right time? Form utility, instead of receiving rubber and iron and leather for shoes, you have it leather, rubber, and iron being made into a shoe that is changing the form. Place, do you have it in a place that is convenient, just across where you can buy? Possession, utility is now having to have that with you and use it. So the main characteristics of a customer service, how do we know that, the customer service is good? Availability of items in the right quantity and quality, and at the right time and place and price. That's what we call customer service. That's a characteristic of customer service. After service, sales and backup service. When whatever you've bought breaks, does it have backup service? Will they come and help you? Can you go and buy the components to service your broken product? And after sales, do they come back to you and help you on how you can install the machine, how you use it? Then competent representative who can illustrate and assist prospective buyers with the specifications of the products, the ones that are going to help you, with the product, explain, because they are competent, they know their product. Acceptable lead times. From the time an order is placed to the time that an order is received, you are trying to minimize time. Reliability and consistency is another one that gives, satisfaction to the customers. How do you measure customers? There are indicators for measuring customer feedback. We have to get customer feedback because we always say customers are kings. Our clients are kings. They are always right. The percentage of consignments received at the correct place, that's how as was requested, we look at the percentage of consignments received on the scheduled time and date, the percentage of consignments received damage-free, the percentage of consignments received complete, in other words, accurately and in full, the percentage of orders billed accurately. So those are indicators. Then, wealth is created through logistics in 4 areas. We talked about this. Revenue growth when the sales increase, operating cost reduction, fixed capital efficiency. When you have all that machinery, the vehicles and everything, when we talk fixed capital, we are talking about non-current assets like land and buildings, machinery, motor vehicles. Are they being efficiently utilized? Are your manufacturing, machines being utilized fully to their fullest potential? Working capital efficiency. Working capital is to do with current assets and current liabilities. Is it efficient? The key business logistics activities will include their 12 demand forecasting, estimating and planning, logistics communication and order processing, procurement and purchasing, packaging, transportation, reverse logistics, which is sometimes referred to as returned goods handling, and materials management. Ladies and gentlemen, I had said they were those that were from study unit 1. We have talked about everything. I think we've covered question 1 and question 2. The rest, I'm not doing the assignment for you. I've guided you through the rest of what you might have questions in, I think can be handled by research. Now we are going to we are looking at chapter 2, purchasing management. Again, there is a learning objective. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there is one that says, recognize the importance. After reading this chapter, you'll be able to, in your study guide and in your book, recognize the important role of purchasing in the supply chain. But the first one is understanding the nature of purchasing in organizations and the supply chain. You have a question on recognizing the important role of purchasing in the supply chain. Then there is describe the purchasing activities performed in the supply chain. Discuss the most important tasks of the purchasing in the supply chain. Discuss the important task of the evaluation, selection, and management of supply chains. Discuss the important task of quality assurance of purchased materials. Discuss the important task of the determination of purchased quantities. Recognize the factors influencing purchasing prices. You remember I said you are going to look at pricing later. Recognize the value-adding role of purchasing. Then discuss sustainable purchasing. Purpose of the purchasing function. Purpose of the purchasing function is to provide the right materials, services, and equipment at a reasonable price to satisfy quality requirements in the correct quantities at the right place at the right time. Importance of efficient purchasing. Why is purchasing so important? The greatest expenditure for business goes to purchasing. Purchasing raw materials, purchasing the machinery, purchasing the motor vehicles, purchasing everything. That's where they spend much of their runs. Again, it's necessary to have inventory. Inventory that will contribute, you have to purchase inventory that will contribute to profit. It also contributes to the marketing of products. So we have the purchasing cycle. If you got your figure 2.1, purchasing cycle is there. You have something about purchasing cycle, like identify the need, develop specification, identify suppliers, tendering process, evaluating process, award contract, manage contract. They ask for 9 steps in the purchasing cycle. Steps in the purchasing cycle: development and distribution of a need, research on prices and availability, choice of suppliers, 4, issuing the order and concluding contract, follow up and expediting, keep up to date. Please read what follow up and expediting is. It's there in your books and in other books. You can't just reference one book. Keep up to date with receipts, inspection and distribution, handle errors and discrepancies, pay for the order and close the order. Steps in the purchasing cycle. Purchasing activities is development and description of a need, research on prices and availability, choice of suppliers, issuing the order and concluding a contract, follow up and expediting, keep updated receipts, inspection and distribution, handling errors and discrepancies. Selection and management of suppliers. How do we select? This is one of the most important. It's very important. Importance of selecting suppliers, because obviously they will contribute so much. You intend to have suppliers that you are going to have a long-term relationship with. One of the most vital tasks of the purchasing supply function: supply of strategic materials and services, essential to proceed systematically and objectively. Consider long-term relationships with suppliers of strategic products and services. Important elements of such a relationship are honesty, fairness, and frankness. That's why it's important to select your suppliers and manage them well. The selection process, depending on the scope of transaction, availability, standard and custom-made strategic. You first compile a list of suppliers. Who are the suppliers that you know? After getting the list, you reduce a short list, that is, you requested to give a quote or negotiations. You look at what it is that you can, which ones you can have. Then you make a final choice of your supplier. Then you evaluate supplier performance. Once you have selected them, you've made a final choice of your supplier, then you evaluate their performance. Supplier evaluation criteria. The aim is to obtain the best value in respect of price, quality, and service and delivery for the business. The final choice of your supplier is based on considerations such as past performance. Have they been upping their game wherever they are? Quality. There are organizations that are known for quality. price, delivery, and technical support. Progressiveness, reliability, broad-based Black economic empowerment score. You are looking at that. Remember, broad-based Black economic empowerment is mostly in South Africa. So, objective evaluation of supplier performance. Why supplier performance? It allows the business to identify ineffective or unreliable suppliers. If you have your supplier evaluation performance, it will help you to know who are the ones that are not the best. It leads to an improvement in supplier performance. If they know that you evaluate them, they will always try by all means to do their best, because they will lose contracts if they don't satisfy whoever is evaluating them. It serves as a guideline for the development of suppliers. Developing suppliers. When you are developing suppliers, you can sometimes decide to ask some of the broad-based Black economic empowerment organizations to supply you. Some organizations even sponsor this, give them contracts so that they can grow. They even train them, bring them to the organization to get to learn what kind of materials they want. So they improve performance as a result of performance appraisals. You come up with performance appraisals that will make them improve the performance. When materials or services do not exist in the local market, then you can develop your own suppliers. You need to develop long-term relationships with suppliers. You have suppliers of strategic materials or complicated or unique services. You need to create alliances with partnerships or partnerships with these suppliers. A high involvement relationship. Trust and cooperation, interdependence, joint quality improvement efforts. You work together and talk about what quality you want. You plan together. Information flowing up, you share information. Risk and benefit sharing. The risk is not only for an individual organization, it's for everybody. And joint problem solving. And then integration of processes. You are working together. You are trying to bring a seamless relationship where your organizations work, integrate, and they work together. That is integration of processes and systems between the buying and supplying organizations. Then pricing decisions. Methods to determine purchasing prices. They will depend on the nature of materials and the value of the transaction. There are some that will be published, like catalogs, brochures, advertisements, and trade journals. There, those will have published price lists. Most suitable for the purchase of standard materials and orders of the low monetary value. For example, when purchasing screws and stationery, those can be there, they are listed. But sometimes you get these decisions from quotations or from tenders when people are invited to tender, or from negotiations. Timing of purchases. The aims of buying at the right time to ensure that the business is supplied on an ongoing basis with the materials and services required for it to operate without interruptions. Remember, if you run out of materials, it means you will close your production facilities and still pay the workers. To keep inventory holding at an optimal level, we are saying carrying too much inventory has a lot of costs, and carrying too little also has a cost of stock out, which is production disruptions. So you want to balance off. That's why we have things like economic order quantity, where we are trying to look at the optimum cost, the most minimum, something that is going to minimize your costs, a balance. So, nature of the business, we look at clothing, it has got seasons. Assembly, we look at forecasting and system. Lead time, I've explained, time it takes from ordering to receiving. Then reliability of customers. Purchasing and supply quantities. Decision made at the same time as decisions about prices and delivery time. Closely intertwined with inventory holding. Objective of purchasing quantities to keep inventory at the optimum level. I explained that. I've talked about integrated systems, and I've said now you'll note that there are a lot of systems that are at play, like JIT, which is just in time, which originated from Toyota, which had identified wastage as the most evil in business. MRP, materials replacement, so MRP, ERP, and AR, which is automatic replenishment, and QRs. Please look for those. Then enterprise resource planning, all those indicating how much should be purchased. Purchasing quantities determined by final consumer sales and forecasted demand. Remember, you forecast first so that you will know you produce as per your forecasts. We talked about the value-adding role of supply chain. Before, purchasing traditionally concentrated on the best deal. You could purchase anyone as long as you had the best deal. But now, in supply chain management, we are saying we are looking at strategic vision. We are not only looking for the best deal, we are looking at a lot of things. We are considering long-term advantage for upstream suppliers and organizations and customers. Previously, we concentrated on hard issues like price delivery, cost profit. Now we also look at softer issues, that is the total quality culture and socio-economic and environmental issues. There are now new concepts such as supply chain management, sourcing, and strategic sourcing. All those are new concepts. We have talked about purchasing the right quantity. There are different perspectives to quantity, and these will be determined by the specifications, standardization, market grades, like the South African Bureau of Standards might give that, engineering drawings, samples. Then you control quality. How do you control quality? By inspections, by certification, such as ISO, by the South African Bureau of Standards certification. That's how we control quality. Additional responsibilities. You look at spend analysis, how much is spent. Demand management. Demand management is how much is, if we forecasted that it is going to be demanded, and specifications. Category management and supply evaluation and selection. How do you manage? How do you evaluate and select your suppliers? How do you manage your contracts? How do you manage the relationship with your suppliers? Then you establish a supply management strategy. Then we have sustainable purchasing. When we talk about sustainable purchasing, we are saying we're looking at the financial responsibility. Is it economic? We are looking at the legal obligations. Remember, here we have to be ethical. Purchasing is one of those disciplines that can be easily corrupted. Ethical responsibilities, supporting local suppliers and local community development, like you have heard of corporate social responsibility. Ensuring broad empowerment by influencing suppliers, contributing to environment protection, respecting human rights. Remember, they were saying, how can you contribute to society? Don't you think? By contributing to environment protection, respecting human rights, promoting safety in the workplace, how purchasing can contribute to society. Supporting local suppliers and local community development, we've talked about that. Ensuring broad-based empowerment by influencing suppliers. Contributing to environment protection by purchasing from environmentally friendly products or services, working with suppliers to seek areas in which improvements can be made to control waste and wasteful activities. Guys, it was supposed to be waste there, not waster. I'm sorry. Typography. Acting in an ethical way in the organization and supply chain according to accepted norms. You are contributing to society. These are some of, not all. Your research will give you more. Respecting human rights by respecting the dignity of all people at all levels in the organization. Suppliers and potential suppliers, and being fair to all. We are respecting all. Suppliers must be visited to ensure that working conditions are acceptable and that child labor is not used. Promoting safety at the workplace with products or services that this function purchases, and making sure about the safety, conditions, and suppliers. In addition, care should be taken with safety in packaging, remember, and transporting of purchased materials. That was our chapter 2. Ladies and gentlemen, you noted that whatever I had said will come from chapter 2. We have somehow tried to, address it. Excuse me. Now we are looking at supplier management. We have questions here. Question 3, we covered everything. 4, with regard to sustainable purchasing, discuss 6 ways in which purchasing can contribute to society. We have done that. They wanted 6 ways. Show how you would use the list in question 4.1 to help your chosen dairy organization to contribute. You apply. Then I'm now coming to supplier management. There are learning objectives there. Those you can look at. After completing this chapter, explain the growing importance of supplier selection. Why is it important to select your suppliers in a prudent manner? Explain the selection of suppliers. How do you select these? List and discuss the selection criteria that can be used to select suppliers. Explain the evaluation of suppliers. Identify 8 supplier selection evaluation criteria. Explain the types of supplier relationships. Discuss the benefits of improved supplier relationships for the whole supply chain. Explain elements of supplier relationships. Discuss how supplier relationships can be monitored and managed. Importance of supplier selection. Growing pressure. Why is it important? The growing pressure to reduce materials costs, increasing outsourcing non-core activities. Purchasing must now purchase those services from suppliers. Remember, when you are outsourcing, you are also purchasing a service from somebody else, from another organization. Because you want to reduce costs. Remember, now we have so many suppliers. You can even order from across the seas, not necessarily in the SADC region in Africa. Then just-in-time approach and demand pool. Demand pool is when the demand is coming from the customers that are pulling the products down. So Growth of e-commerce and internet has made it easy that you supply there's a lot of information. You can get the best suppliers because so much information is there. The other reason is organizations have become integrated into supply chains. Now organizations have partnered with other organizations so that their work is easier and they have longer contracts and they do better. There's closer collaboration and partnerships now between the supply chain partners. Poor suppliers will lead to out-of-stock situations and loss of sales. Poor suppliers will lead to product recalls, and this is costly in terms of money and reputation. Then poor suppliers are going to weaken your competitive position. Criteria for supplier selection. We have the quality, price, cost structure, delivery, time, flexibility, service, financial status, systems. How are their systems? That is the operations planning and control and e-commerce. Technology and process capability, supply chain management approach, BBBEE implication, environment, ethical. You might get into business with an organization that has been blamed for not being ethical, like using child labor, for instance. Capability. Are they capable? Do they respond well? Are they motivated? That is now and in future. Steps and phases in supplier selection. How do we select our customers? Establish criteria for supplier selection. We say, how are we going to have to get this? This is pre-evaluation phase. Then you pre-screen and reject unsuitable suppliers. That's the second. Then, after you have the ones that you have remained with, there's the evaluation phase. They conduct research on sustainable suppliers. You now research on them, the ones that you have remaining. Choose evaluation method and analyze suppliers. Then select suppliers. After you have selected these suppliers, you have come up, signed contracts with them, you have trained them, they understand what you want, you have met them, you have planned with them. And when they are now your suppliers, there is an ongoing measurement of these suppliers. You are now looking at supplier performance. I think there was something about supplier performance. So this is now called the post-evaluation phase, which is ongoing measurement of supplier performance and the supplier accreditation. How are they accredited? You have to accredit them to have your most, the ones that you consider most, the ones that follow, and the ones that are not that so good. So now, identification of suppliers. How do you identify them? You go to the internet, search, go to company websites, chambers of commerce or business, embassies and consular general officers, national associations, purchasing institutions, trade directories, trade journals and business directories, industrial trade fairs, financial and industrial newspapers and magazines, existing suppliers and sales representatives. So you have your information. Now you start pre-screening by rejecting unsuitable suppliers. Many grounds of elimination can be there, like those that do not meet your requirements, like quality requirements, such as ISO 9000, 2000, put them away. Those that are in a poor financial state, eliminate them. Those that do not provide financial statements, eliminate them. Those that don't have the triple B, EE certification, eliminate them. Those that are experiencing labor problems and strikes, because if they are experiencing labor problems and strikes, you might be disrupted. You might stay for weeks or months without any, you know, materials, and you'll not be in production. You remember during Marikana, how many steel companies suffered because mines could not produce, could not supply them with the steel. And then experiencing labor problems and strikes previously removed from supplier list. A reasonable risk of interruption in supply. If you look at them and you think, there's a risk here of interruption, then you don't choose those. Then the step 3 was conduct research. How do you conduct this research? You'll visit the suppliers or make supplier surveys and questionnaires. Please give questionnaires. Then question 4. Choose the evaluation method and analyze the suppliers. How are you going to evaluate them? Like informal techniques, purchasing manager's judgment. The purchasing manager, you remember, he's in that business, he knows exactly. So you might use that informal technique of having the purchasing manager judging. Panel consensus, where you come up with a team and discuss relative merits. Then supplier makes a formal presentation to purchasing team. You invite the supplier to come up and make a presentation. You ask them questions, The formal ones, you wait, you write a criteria and put weighting 3 out of 5, this, what, the criteria is there in your book, it's in detail. There it is. For instance, you can have good being 3, reasonable being 2, poor being 1. You see? And then you can look at your, on what you'll be evaluating. For quality, it will be 5. Price, it will be 2. Delivery, it will be 3. Let's look at quality. Quality supplier 1 out of 5. How much does he have for supplier 1? Quality, here's that. Supplier 2 is 15. Supplier 2 quality is 10 because he got 2. Then on supplier 3 is 10. On price, supplier 1 is 2. Supplier 2 is 6. Supplier 3 has 4. On delivery, supplier 1 has 9. Remember, delivery is out of 3. Supplier 2, delivery is out of 3, is 3. Then delivery for supplier, next one is 2. 2, and if it's 3, it is good, it will be 6. Yes. So it was 2 times 0, it was 2 times 3, which is 6. That was for, delivery. So people, this is how we weigh. So here, adding the totals, you'll get 26. You can weight it according. If this is complicated, you can find your own weighting. The key is just to know that, you come up with a way of, weighting. Then the phase 3 is supplier management. Now you have your suppliers. You are now maintaining. This is part of contract management. Motivate suppliers to comply and improve. Assistance whenever possible. Give them assistance. Step 6, ongoing measurement using weighted. Supplier, step 7, now you give them accreditation. You say, how do we accredit them? We've approved suppliers, we've preferred suppliers, we've certified customers. Suppliers. So supplier relationships can be transactional, which is just one-off. You don't even get there because you don't get to know them. Collaborative is when, please, you have to know this. You should know the difference between transactional, collaborative relationships. And the third one, recognize the need to cooperate to achieve cost. That is when it's collaborative. They achieve cost, quality, delivery, and time improvements. But transactional is just between buyer and seller. They don't get close. That's called a transactional relationship. In a collaborative, recognition of interdependence is necessary for cooperation between purchasing organizations and suppliers. Then supplier relationships with what is called alliance or partnership. This is multifaceted and goal-oriented. They exist between two companies sharing risks and rewards. They require extensive collaboration, require time, commitment of resources, information sharing, and management of confidentiality. That is now when they are alliance. We talked about collaborative, we talked about transactional, collaborative, and now we are saying now they can be alliances or collaboration, where you all sharing the same goals. This one is not there, but you need to understand it. When we are talking about the supply chain positioning model. In this supply chain positioning model, we are having two variables, risk and spend. If the spend, you are spending very little and the risk is high, that kind of a product is called a bottleneck product or a service. Here it means that the suppliers are few and their supply complexities, low spend. Then, because there are fewer suppliers, it means there is need for collaboration where there's an agreement between the suppliers and the organization. There is the preferred customer-supplier relationship that is on bottleneck products. Then on critical products, it is high risk and you are spending a lot of money for it. Why is it so? Substitution is very difficult. And these products are or services are of strategic importance and high value in total spend. Here, strategic alliance and long-term contracts and collaboration is key. Then on the routine products, routine goods and services, like every day we buy bread, you know what I mean? There are so many, the way there's low risk, low spend, many suppliers. There are so many alternative substitutes, are so many. Standard products and services of low value, transactional. You don't even get to know when you're buying bread, they ask you who you are so that they can advertise to you, unless you are a big purchaser. But for you buying a loaf every day, the relationship is arm's length. You don't need to create a strong relationship because it's low spend, low risk. So many people are supplying. Leverage products and services. This is where there is high spend and low risk, meaning substitution is possible. Alternative products can be there. There are many suppliers. The products are standard. Short-term contracts with more than one supplier, you know. So please get to understand this model. Excuse me. Supplier alliance implementation. Step 1, you evaluate potential risks or benefit of partnership. Look at it and say, what are the risks? Step 2, come up with a criteria. What is it that will really make somebody become a potential partner to you? What are you looking at? Step 3, the executives, remember, if you want to have these people, these suppliers, your executives, meaning the suppliers' executives and the focal organizations' executives should commit. Step 4, you now nurture this alliance and you evaluate and improve, you train them, you meet, and say where are they failing, improve them, you work together. You manage conflict if ever there's any conflict, amicable, try and reduce conflict. Performance evaluation of alliance characteristics. You are looking at the strategic thrust. You want to ensure that your relationship, the performance is impacting positively on your strategy. Team approach. You are working as a team. You are evaluating. There's a broad evaluation of parameters. Your evaluation is based on factual data. There's frequent communication. There's improvement of goals. You sit together, come up with goals, and try and improve them. Levels of assessment. You will look at the product level, process level, quality assurance level, business organization level. Then methods of assessment. You can assess personally. There can be a supplier audit. There can be cost modeling. These are explained in detail in the book. So, ladies and gentlemen, so far we have looked at that. It has covered everything. If you look at what the assignment had said, it has said chapters covered is 1 to 3. I want to find out if you think that you have if you think this has been covered. Any questions? I hope I was clear, guys. Lara, I hope I was clear. Sepo, I hope I was clear and you understood what I was saying. I'm waiting for others. Lara is typing. Thank you. If they are a great summary, I'm happy. And I think you might liaise with Genevieve because I'm just a presenter. I wouldn't mind if they gave them to you, But you'll note that I just presented on the 3 chapters. Otherwise, my slides go up to the end, which means for our next presentation, I'm just briefly going to go through the 3, and then I will continue from 4 to 10. Charlene? Okay, it's a point. Charlene, thank you. What else? What questions? Lisanne is typing. You were so few, I expected so many people. Okay. I know that no one says they have a question. Okay, let me slightly just go through chapter 4, just so that you look at your chapter 4 now is inbound transportation. It is necessary that you understand inbound transportation. I'm not going to go through the objectives. Why are we looking at that? We know that there is materials in various stages of the processing flow through the supply chain. Materials will flow from supplier to the organization. So that will be through inbound transportation. Then there will be a flow within the organization. If it's a flow within the organization from the warehouse to the manufacturing plant, or from the manufacturing plant to the warehouse, that is called materials flow. Then from out of the organization to the next, partner in the supply chain, that becomes outbound. Or to the final customer in the organization is outbound. So transportation is the link between customers, suppliers, factories, warehouses, and individual participants in the supply chain. Transportation adds value to the organization by creating time and place utility. So we explained what place utility was. I said place utility is achieved when the right product is available at the right place. Time utility is when the product is available at the right time. So important in overall customer satisfaction. All these are important in overall customer satisfaction, in making our customers happy. So many decisions and activities on transportation, we have what decisions are there. The decision activities are what mode of transport are you going to use? Obviously, this will be based on your type of products. If it's perishable, you need faster transport. Specific carrier, who are you going to have transporting your products? Determining the transportation terms and prices. Aligning inbound and outbound flows. How do you align them? To ensure optimal utilization of transport. Make sure that when the truck is going to Pretoria, it is full and it comes back with something so that you lower the cost. You are optimally utilizing the transport equipment and rating the carrier's performance. Then planning supply routes, which are the most economic supply routes. Classifying freight, determining the most economical quantities of consignments. Pooling freight, auditing freight invoices, claiming damaged goods, in-plant and inter-plant movement. All these are decisions that have to be taken in transportation. So you'll note that, importance of management of transport in supply chain. It ensures that products or materials are received on time, at required place, and in a usable condition. Then you note that transportation has, the highest costs. There's so much on transportation. So managing large costs is involved. Transportation is a key component and very important component in the supply chain management. Transportation also plays a key integrative role to integrate and coordinate flows throughout supply chain. So transportation system becomes the warehouse, orders consolidated by computer and carriers coordinated for JIT deliveries. Good transportation system enables achieving competitive advantage, like satisfying customer needs faster and at a lower cost. Managing inbound, transportation, we have what we call key leverage points. Like we look at volume per transaction, we look at consolidation of carriers and movements, we look at service requirements. Under volume per transaction, we are saying when you buy a larger amounts of product per transaction to get the best transaction rate, you remember economies of scale. When you are buying more, you are likely to get more discounts, therefore that will reduce the cost. Consolidation, to gain best rate possible through negotiations with transportation suppliers. They know they will always have you, so if you negotiate well, you are likely to get the best rate. Service requirements, we are looking at lead times and delivery requirements related to specific times and or expedited movements for shorter cycle times. Managing inbound logistics. We have steps here, 6 steps. Collect current inbound transportation data. Identify organizational objectives. Identify and establish requirements for supplier compliance. Develop a carrier management solution. Implement solution and training the suppliers on the web-based, on the web-based, transport management system. TMS stands for Transport Management System. Establish key performance indicators. and metrics for continuous improvement. Then we have the modes of transport. These you can look at to know the advantages and disadvantages. These go on. Advantages, disadvantages of each road transport, advantages, disadvantages. Reason for the dominance of road transport in supply chains. We know it's flexible and adaptability of operations. This is especially important in the design of supply chains to suit shipper, cargo, owner, and customer needs. Supply chain now depends so much on JIT and QR service offerings. You continue. This is what we have on transportation. Shipping. What is shipping? What types of ships do you have? And then advantages, disadvantages. What kind of products do are best for shipping? Major ports in South Africa, I gave them: Richards Bay, Durban, Port Elizabeth, Quaker, Mossel Bay, East London, Cape Town. Then air freight, advantages and disadvantages as well. Pipeline, which is good for liquids and gases, advantages and disadvantages as well. And what is meant by intermodal transport? That is when more than one transport is used. We say it's intermodal. For instance, ship, then road. Consider the costs or service advantages of two or more modes for a single consignment. Refers to the use of two or more carriers of different modes in a movement of a shipment. Typical intermodal combinations include air and road, maritime and road and rail, maritime and rail, and maritime and road. Then you will have to understand the ecoterms, the terms that are used there. These are transport terms. So there are so many of them. There they are. X-Works, that free carrier. You have to understand this. Then we look at the internal transportation of materials, which is known as materials handling. Does not add any value of the product, but may be a major cost component, like 2% of the value of the stock. It doesn't add value, it doesn't make it better, but just because there's been a lot of handling. Defined, internal transportation of materials is defined as the short distance movement and handling of materials, which usually takes place within the limits of the building. I explained this, which is storehouse or other inventory storage facility, with a view to maximum service and minimum cost. Internal transportation of materials. This one usually takes place at the loading and unloading from vehicles, the movement to storage before processing or assembly, the movement of material between workstations, the movement to warehouses of the finished goods, and the uploading on vehicles. That's the kind of transportation that we refer to as internal transportation. Now, when we look at the principles of internal movement, we are saying transport should be eliminated or transport distances should be shortened. That is the principle of distance. Materials flow should not be interrupted unnecessarily. Materials should be moving or decrease the time material is located at various points. That's the principle of flow. Easy routes should be planned, and the backwards movement of materials should be eliminated. How do you eliminate backwards material elimination? By doing the right thing. Transport should take place in both directions. Thus, movement of empty containers should be limited. The principle of occupation. Make sure when the transport goes, that site is full of something, comes back, it has something. Economical quantities should be transported to use smaller containers. The principle of capacity utilization. Gravity or an alternative cheap and reliable source of power should be used for movement of materials. That, ladies and gentlemen, I just had to go a little bit too far and look at it. I don't know any questions, or are you all happy? We can call it a day. I tried to highlight where your assignment was, but please go to the internet and research. Go to other books, research. You can look at dairy products and look at how when you look at dairy products there, dairy products in South Africa, organizations that deal with dairy products in South Africa, and then come up with that. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, if there is nothing, I can't see anyone saying anything, we have come to the end of our, unless there is a question. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. Okay, good night.